Hello, my amazing quantum family. Right, so this is a continuation from the message I started on the weekend, Sunday. And last week, I had the intention of sharing with you a really profound outcome I received on the back end of meditating. So, what's been happening in the more recent year or two is that I've been feeling the real sense of getting connected multidimensionally. It's been a real thing, and that's been the core essence of those of you who've been with me in the Sigma Soul program, so Sigma Soul Foundation and Sigma Soul Academy. It's been the crux of what it means to do sort of the spiritual work, because we are more than just humans. We are literally divine beings having a human experience, right? So I meditated the other day and I wanted to share with you what was downloaded. And I did this half-hour long spiel as I was on my meditation walk. So I've now chosen to condense a little bit more. So, as I explained, I had started a new property investors program, and I'm sort of 2 months in, and I've realized that it's not something that I see myself doing. Not that property investment isn't a thing, but remember I shared with you the download I had about going off piste, because going down the normal route, the normal ski slope, there was going to be a snowball and then a big avalanche, and then we're going to see people struggling on that trajectory. So it was about moving over off piste, to going off piste and creating a new pathway. And it was all about wealth and abundance. So I was looking more into wealth and abundance. And what I realized was that many people are viewing wealth in terms of the matrix way of receiving wealth, and that's through the core different types of investments. So that's like the property, silver and gold, stocks and shares, and now more so crypto as well. And I decided to learn a little bit more about the strategies in property investment, and recently decided, you know what, it actually isn't for me, because they were starting to talk about using strategies like Facebook advertising. And I've already tried that for coaching. And I don't like it because I'm not a techie. And those of you who know me, when I realize that I'm not on the right path, if I veered off the path, sometimes my technology goes a little bit awry. Or even if I'm in a very empowered state, again, it comes through in my technology. So it's not the best way of me trying to utilize my energy and focus. So I actually contacted the trainers last week, because on Monday, there were these like 3 hour long live sessions on a Monday night and a Thursday night. And Monday evening, I just decided, you know what? I don't feel like taking this forward anymore. And I contacted them last week, later on in the week, because what had happened was this. Instead of listening to the live training, I listened to a podcast, and it was talking about, because remember, I'm now more about multidimensionality and being able to utilize our divine gifts. Those of you who've been in the Sigma Soul programs with me, I explain it as the fact that we are like superheroes. The intuitive leaders are like the superheroes hidden in plain sight. And we utilize, like the different Marvel characters, we utilize our divine gifts for the greater good, right? And we all have these different gifts, but many of us have forgotten what those specific gifts are. And so part of the journey is to discover, what it is specifically that we are aligned to, utilizing when we're on our purpose path. And interestingly, I came across this podcast which was talking about savant syndrome. And if you don't know what that is, it simply is one of these weird and wonderful syndromes that occurs where it shows people suddenly being able to do things that they shouldn't be able to do. For example, speaking languages when they haven't learned the language, like fluently speaking languages. And sometimes that happens like after an accident or when someone's banged their head. Even things like playing a musical instrument when they haven't actually learned the instrument, and suddenly they've acquired this newfound skill at, like, high grade level, or being able to literally play orchestral type music, right? And they've never played the instrument before. So savant skills was fascinating when I listened to that instead of doing my property training. And there was a doctor who was talking about working with two brothers who both were autistic, and they developed these savant skills where they were able to just recount prime numbers, and they were able to do 6 digits, meaning, you know, in the millions. And they took it in turns. So one brother did one number, then they skipped one, and then the other brother did the next number, skipped one, and so forth, right? And so when they were asked how they were able to remember these numbers or even work it out, they said, we're not working it out. We're literally just seeing what these numbers are. They're coming up in front of us. And to me, that's multidimensional, you know, frequency. We're tapping into them. We're able to tap into them. And we all have this kind of ability. It's just that we don't utilize them in the everyday, normal, matrix world. And it's not until you think a different way and you notice that other people who have a different brain wiring, they're able to do this stuff. So in any case, I'd listened to that and I found it fascinating because it's along the lines of what I've been teaching some of you last year. Those of you who came into academy, we started doing the multidimensional stuff a little bit more, like the past life readings, on self and others. We were doing talking about the astral travel, astral projection. I was talking about the telepathy tapes, right? I was talking about how there's this amazing, you have to listen to it if you haven't already done so, but the telepathy tapes is talking about how autistic children or young adults, teenagers, during lockdown were able to connect more with their mothers, the primary caregivers. And they had these researchers from Stanford University who came in, and what they discovered was that when the mothers were, for example, given a long word to read, their child who was autistic, so had to use an iPad. So these were not fully verbal, had the motor skills to speak. They instead were able to write down the word that the mother had read, that the investigators had passed on to the mother, right? So basically, they were doing telepathy, and it also included not just reading the word, but also they were able to feel the emotions when mothers were watching TV. They also talked about some of these kids having precognition abilities. Okay. So, being able to almost foresee things that are literally about to happen. And it talked about how some of these young people were able to meet in not an imaginary place, but a different reality realm. They call it the hill, where they all consciously meet up and communicate with each other. And these are autistic kids who are from all around the planet. Okay, so they all meet at the hill and talk, and they have mentors and they have people and friendships that they're able to communicate with. Fascinating, right? So I was telling my clients about these abilities and how my twins, one of them was really good at telekinesis, another one's pretty good at doing paradigm shifting. And, one of my other girls is also really able to tap into the frequency of like astral travel, especially during dream state. So, this is the conversation that I have on a regular basis. This is the direction that I'm moving into. So, what happened was when I did my meditation on the Tuesday, because I said to myself, oh my goodness, I'm really gonna have to try and catch up on the training that I'd missed out with the property stuff. At that point, this is Tuesday, I hadn't mentioned anything to the trainers just yet. I thought, let me go for a meditation walk like I normally do, and let me just meditate on it. Some of you come to the meditation field with me at some point, those of you on my program, so you'll know which one I'm talking about. And there, the weather was sunny, it was like so calm. And what I downloaded was a message. So when when I sort of tune in through meditation, I am able to hear. So that's clairaudient. I can hear not a voice, but a vocalized message, right? There are times when I really feel into, the feeling of what feels right. That's clairsentience. And most of the time it's just knowing, clear cognizance. So I will know if a client comes to me and says, this is showing up for me, then I will know exactly what part of their BS framework's triggered and what they need to focus on, what they need to bring themselves back to, right? So these are my sort of honed in skills. So I'd heard during my meditation a download and it said, go onto YouTube. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness, I'm in the middle of a meditation. And the voice said again, just go onto YouTube. And on there was someone doing a reading, and a card reading. And they were basically saying, stay on your path because you're going to come across a soulmate and you're both on a mission and it's a double mission. And I'm like, oof, that sounds interesting. Yeah, I like the sound of that. And the next minute they say, but they're going to be younger than you, so you might need to work on that. And I'm like, oh, really? Do they have to? Some of you know some of my stories of, some of my experience I've had when it comes to people that are younger, right? So interesting. I just had to get over that piece. And so I left the meditation field and I was walking back home. And so I was saying to my higher self, okay, so what else do I need to know besides this? And so the voice started coming through. And when I do a meditation walk, I can download as I'm walking. So the message came through and it said, stay on your path, stay on your path. And I tuned in and I thought, you know what? My path is working with the intuitive leaders, continuing to focus my energy and time on that. And as I do that, wealth and abundance will come through. So I need to work less on my strategy. And for me, that's like, you know what? That feels so much better. I'll contact the trainers and tell them that I'm not going to attend the property training anymore. I just really want to focus on working with my intuitive leaders, right? And so that made me feel so much better. And I said, by the time I get home, please give me the sign. And as soon as I got back, those of you who know me know that if I'm not on the right path, often it'll come through technology or it's something like a parking, something to do with cars and vehicles, something like a parking ticket, or I get a fine in the post. There was one where I got charged and fined for doing 52 miles an hour in a 50-mile-an-hour restricted road on the motorway, and then they put 3 points on my license because that happened in 2 different points of that motorway stretch. And I'm like, really? And one of the options was to take a motorway driving course, so I ended up paying for that. So when I got home, in the letterbox was a letter, and I told you this already, but this was my confirmation. There was a letter talking about the motorway incident from the Metropolitan Police. But this time it said, due to anomalies on the camera, we feel that you are due a refund. We're also going to take off the 3 points off your license. And if you've done a motorway driving course, please ask for the refund for that too. And this is what I'm saying. That was a miracle in itself, because when have you ever been told that there were errors on a camera, right? And got refunds back from the fines you've paid or anything like that. So for me, that was the definite sign that I was on the right path. Okay, that I just needed to focus more my energies on the intuitive leaders that are coming through my programs. And so I asked for further confirmation. So this is the piece that I hadn't mentioned yet. And I tuned in and the message came through. Gosh, that's another confirmation. A message came through to go back onto YouTube. And when I meditate, I'm like, really? I'm enjoying this meditation so much. Do I need to go back onto YouTube? And he's like, yes, there's a message waiting for you there. And this time there was a video, 40-minute video about the Epstein files. And I said, no, I don't want to go down there because it just feels heavy and dense, anything to do with that. And this time the voice said, the message is for you. It's confirmation. So I started listening to it. And oh my goodness, the hairs on the back of my neck started going, tingling. And this one was specifically about, I'm not sure if you're aware, but he was hugely into some strange things like looking at immortality. And so he had a group of scientists, neuroscientists, quantum physicists, psychotherapists. He even had Deepak Chopra, so we're talking about spiritual guru, and people that are mapping, brain functions. AI experts, so I'm not going to say which ones, a whole group that he'd brought together. And the reason why he did this was because he was looking at downloading consciousness. They were mapping consciousness, right? And the overall aim was to be able to upload it into either AI or future robots. But they also did something else, and that was cloning. Now, this is when I really started to feel a little bit, okay, I'm understanding this. I'm joining the dots. I'm starting to see how all the pieces are fitting together with what he's doing. Okay. Because I did gene cloning when I was at university. My final year project, whilst my degree was biochemistry, I also did genetics. And I chose a project which was to clone a Drosophila gene. Drosophila is a green fly. And I did so well on that project that I was offered a PhD off the back end of it. I got something ridiculous like 97% on that one. And I knew even then, whilst doing it, I'm not going to do another one of these because, in all honesty, whilst the technique was very, at the time, it was very sort of forward leading. At that time, 30 years ago, we just had Dolly the sheep. So that was a completely cloned sheep. So it was huge. That kind of technology was huge back then. And so that meant that fast forward things 30 years, of course, we're going to be able to clone humans. So I'm like, oh my goodness, this is actually happening. They're actually doing this. And they're trying to map consciousness and also upload it into bodies, okay, cloned bodies. And when I looked at one of the part of this video, they talk sorry, I'm just going to read off one of the emails and things that are flying around on this. One of the experts was talking about consciousness, and he said there were 5 stages of consciousness. Stage 1 was consensus reality. Now, this is stuff that I've taught you guys years back during the quantum programs. Consensus reality is when we manifest, it's about understanding that it's about the frequency. This is quantum physics. We manifest from the quantum field, but it's about the agreement of our frequency to create our reality. Our reality is co-created with our frequency. And so, it really is about understanding that, we are responsible for everything that shows up. Stage 2 was unity. Now, of course, we understand as spiritual, people in this group, unity consciousness is about the fact that we're all connected and we're all one. But from a quantum mechanics perspective, this talked about quantum entanglement. And I know I've gone through this with you in various programs where, the quantum physics explains how when you split protons and you throw one proton, to a different location, miles away. So that's what CERN was doing, right? They were splitting particles, quantum particles, and sending them miles away, and then agitated one, and immediately the other particle, the other part of that proton was moving in synergy at the same time. There was no delay, there was no relapse, there was no like time distance. It happened at the same time. And from that experience, quantum entanglement explains that everything happens in succession with everything else. Everything's connected, right? And so as I was teaching some of you last year about what's showing up in your life, if you're not liking it, it's a consequence of what you're putting out in stage 1, but stage 2 as well, because everything is connected, right? So, you are responsible for everything that shows up. Stage 3, they talk about surrender. Now, those of you, I think most of you have had your BS framework, your BS assessment done with me. And you will have that mapped out and you'll be able to see, where particularly the 12 core limiting beliefs are playing out in your BS framework, right? So this is where we have to learn to sort of surrender to where our fears and doubts are, where our separation is, where our BS lies in terms of the doubtfulness, the scarcity mindset, the separation between them and us, the lacking of, the feeling of powerlessness and all this stuff that we've already worked through. Some of you have gone quite deep in terms of what we did in academy. And so that was stage 3, but stage 4, oh my goodness, I started to feel like this is why I needed to see this, because stage 4 was about intuition. He was looking at intuition. And I'm thinking, this is exactly the direction I was going to last year with the Sigma Souls, the intuitive leaders. Those of you who I've worked with in more depth more recently, we've been doing intuitive work. Okay, we've been doing the downloading, we've been doing the let's explore what needs to be understood multidimensionally. And so I'm like, this is my territory. This is what I've been doing. And then when I saw stage 5, I'm like, oh my Gideon, this. What Jeffrey Epstein was trying to do is get to stage 5. Stage 5, according to their consciousness model, is special abilities. And everything I was doing last year with my intuitive leaders was talking about special abilities. We were looking at our divine gifts. Like I said, you are the superheroes hidden in plain sight, and we all have these superhuman gifts, these talents. And unless you actually explore and try and understand better what they are, we don't even know we have them. And so with some of you, we looked at things like the astral projection, astral travel, looking at multidimensional sort of past life stuff, right? We went deeper into telekinesis, and I even talked about telepathy, where I felt like I was communicating more at that telepathic level, and my kids can do it. I know I have twins, so there's a twin thing going on, but it's possible. Anyone can do it. So I'm like, he was into tapping into these special abilities. And then as it talks further in this video, it brought up one of the emails that was sent out in this group, and Deepak Chopra was part of this group. So I'm going to just read out the email that was sent through in 2000. This is 2017, right, in the Epstein files. So it says, good to hear from you, Paul. So one of the doctors was being responded to. Good to hear from you and your interest in telepathy. And I spoke so much about telepathy last year. So good to hear from you and your interest in telepathy in autistic children. In my recent review of our Savant registry, remember Savant syndrome that I just started listening to? We now have over 300 cases, and about 1% of parents and other reporters indicate ESP, which is extrasensory perception, and telepathy abilities in that sample. When Rimland did his review of the 3,500 detailed parents' reports, he also noticed about 1% had paranormal abilities. This is where I'm talking about precognition. This is when I download and I say I can see things that are not in this reality, but it feels like it's coming forward. Like I explained to you guys 2 years ago, I said, look, we're going to have disclosure in 2 years' time. I've been downloading. We're going to get disclosure. We've had soft disclosure from the government. Trump and Barack Obama both have spoken about about disclosure, about the alien and UFO, files, okay, that are now going to come to light. They had the hearings last year, right? The Pentagon hearings. So it's all coming through. Anyway, so in this email, 1% of parents or other reporters indicated ESP telepathy abilities in that sample. My most recently acquired Savant sample of 59 cases, one such case reported paranormal abilities newly present. So this is where people are developing newly present paranormal abilities. This is where I've been talking about being able to like astral project, do the precognition. We are talking about looking at different timeline shifts and paradigm shifts. And this is what I've been doing, working with some of you last year, right? It says, and I've been working with a girl with severe autism impairment since 2013 who shows clear telepathy connection with her therapist. Dan knows about this case. I'm familiar with 2 other such cases in other countries. I'm busy the next few days. Okay, so they start talking more about the Savant case and filming um, or something or other. Okay, so here's the thing. Jeffrey Epstein was trying to do the stuff that I'm teaching my intuitive leaders, my Sigma Soul intuitive leaders. Those of you who've been in Foundation and Academy, those of you who are in the Intuitive Mastermind just now, I'm talking about exactly this. We're doing intuitive work, stage 4 and stage 5, using your special abilities. Okay. And this is why I get so excited, because I know that he's missing a trick. I know, and I've told you, and I remember there is a video here in this group when I'm speaking in 2020, I think it was. I'm saying I see a timeline split. I see that there's going to be 2 outcomes. One version is going to be where there's going to be highly advanced technology, and that there's going to be, connection of our neural pathways within robots and in future humans. But that's not the timeline we want to be on. We want to be on the other timeline where it's about those of us doing consciousness work and tapping into our higher frequencies. Those of us who are doing the deeper spiritual work, we're looking at intuition. I remember saying that. That was like in 2020, right? So here's where that group are missing a trick, because they're trying to work with robots, AI, download consciousness, and even looking at putting them into clones. And this is what I know to be true. This is why I didn't like the whole cloning aspect. Is when you take a cell and you clone the DNA, if you get to clone a fully bodied animal or human, they don't hold the soul of the original version of that person or being or animal, whatever it is. The soul only exists in the original. So anything that you clone doesn't have a soul. So they are trying to create future realities of consciousness without soul, soulless. And yet I've been downloading in the last couple of years about Sigma Soul, where we do soul-led work with intuitives who we are now doing some of these most amazing multidimensional work together. We're looking at dream states. We're looking at absolutely like tapping into our divine gifts. And some of the work we've done together has been phenomenal. You've cleared so much denseness, and you're starting to really see how life can be so different. And this is where I need to be. When I said to myself, walking across that meditation field last week, I need to work with my intuitive leaders and go deeper with them. This was what was coming through, to do more of that. And the reason why we need to do more of it is because the way they're doing it is soulless. The way I'm choosing to do it, and there are many others like me who are going deeper with the divine gifts and understanding about frequency work, letting go of the BS, living the life that we truly desire, but being aligned to our soul path, our soul purpose. See, we're going to rise to the different frequency, and we're going to go through a split, and either you're going to end up on one timeline or the other timeline, depending on whether you release enough of that BS and rise even more onto the soul path, the purpose path. So this is why I got very excited, because I realized this was my sign. The work I'm doing is needed. It's really soulful. It's about tapping into the intuitiveness of who we really are. And this is why, for me, that was a message that I need to put out there. Because if Jeffrey Epstein was trying to do this stuff, he's not going to get the outcome that he thinks he's going to get. Okay. And yes, I do believe that he's still alive, by the way, but he's a puppet from something greater. There's a different group controlling behind the scenes. So this is where I feel like we as the intuitive, divinely led leaders are here to make that difference in the world. And the more we do our work, the more we raise frequency and bring those with us so that we align and we end up on a trajectory that's more in alignment with where we choose to be. So this is why it's so exciting that I got this message and downloaded that, oh my goodness, I'm doing intuitive work and I'm working with the intuitives to do this kind of thing. And in answer to your question, I noticed you put in there, Yusra, the intuitive mastermind is, well, where you did foundation and that was aligning the frequency and energies, so getting them in balance. And academy was where, oh my goodness, you had the most amazing outcomes through just working through your stuff, right? So academy is where we actually work through stuff. The intuitive mastermind is where we start to create life by design with a purpose element to it. So we start to paradigm shift. Our life starts to shift and change. And this is why I'm saying, you've noticed as well that, abundance is coming in so many different ways, in the form of like PayPal accounts just turn up like magic. That's a paradigm shift. In a different reality, the last reality, I didn't have that. In this reality, it just shows up. I'm getting the refunds back, from the Metropolitan Police of all places. Some of you have also known that, I'm getting money back from different organizations. I'm getting reduced prices. That's from Lexus. I've shared quite a few recently. And it's just been phenomenal how they're just dropping in as if by magic, because what it's doing is saying, when you're on your purpose path, don't worry about how the abundance comes to you. Just work on that purpose-led pathway, right? And learn to live life by design through surrender. It gets so exciting. So yeah, that's what the intuitive mastermind is. We're working between 6 months and 12 months. And those of you who are interested, just give me a bell and I can give you more detail around that. So that includes training that you listen to, and then we get a once a week coaching session together. And then of course we do our gatherings as I do, like I did with Foundation and Academy. So this was my sign that I need to focus on this, because everything that Jeffrey Epstein was working on is what I'm already doing. And we're doing this. We are literally, those of you who know me, I've already described that I believe in a past life. I was there at the time of Atlantis, just before the fall. I was a high priestess, and I remember seeing the stone within the pyramids where I had a group of initiates who were operating to raise their frequency so that we could leave before the fall of Atlantis, because we could foresee it happening. That was the precognition. That was that ability that we had. And we were working towards raising our frequency so that we can leave physically in our higher bodies and therefore come back again. We've come back. We've come back again. And these are the people that I'm working with right now. So you know this story already, those of you who are working with me. I believe that we are here to raise that frequency once again in this time frame. Exciting times, guys. You're doing leading edge stuff. You don't have to be a multi-millionaire, billionaire to do this kind of thing, right? We get to do it and the abundance comes for us. I'm so excited. Keep in touch, guys. Keep sharing, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you in one of these several groups that I'm in. And anyone who's interested in the Intuitive Mastermind, let me know, or Foundation, that is as well. Another round of that is open. And I look forward to catching up with you really soon. Much love to you. Mwah.